Part of a circle. The first thing I'll be explaining is called the center. What is the center of the circle? As it can be seen, the center is always placed at the middle of the circle. It can be defined as a fixed point inside the circle. It is fixed, not moving. It is always at the middle of the circle. Secondly, I'll be defining a radius. A radius is a line segment from the center to any point of the circle, from the center to any part of the circle. This is a radius. You can see this line from the center touching this part of the circle. It can go up, down, vertical, horizontal, diagonal, but make sure the point extends from the center of the circle to any part of the circle. Secondly, we define a diameter. A diameter is twice of a radius, that is 2 multiplied by the radius. A diameter is a line segment passing through the center and connecting any 2 points of the circle. As it can be seen, the diameter is joining this part of the circle and this part of the circle. It can come in this way. A diameter can also come in this way, but make sure it touches 2 parts of the circle by passing through the center. This is what defines a diameter. It touches 2 parts of the circle, any 2 parts of the circle, by passing through the center. Next, we talk about circumference. A circumference is also called a perimeter of the circle. A circumference is any point like this, from here down here. You can see the circle, you can see the cursor moving. So this is the perimeter of the circle. So this is called circumference. Okay? Next, we talk about a chord. A chord, a chord can also be in form of a diameter. A chord joins any 2 points in the circle. So other way around, you can say all diameters are chord, but not all chord are diameter. What does this mean? Look at this. A, this is a chord. It joins any 2 points you can see from the circumference on the circle. This is a chord. You can see. Look at B and C. B is also a chord. It joins this part of the circle and this part of the circle. Now look at C. Diameter is the longest chord. This joins this part of the circle and the other part of the circle. But what makes C special from A and B is that it passes through the center. But the rule of chord is that it joins any 2 points in the circle. Now, if you look at C, it passes through the center. It is a chord and a diameter. But look at B. B is a chord but not a diameter. Why? Because it doesn't pass through the center. Look at A. A is a chord but not a diameter. Why? Because it doesn't pass through the center of the circle. So the theorem again is that all diameters are chord, but not all chords are diameter. Next, we define an arc. An arc is the portion of circumference between 2 points. Let this be the first point and let this be the second point. You can see this part, you can see this arc. I'm not talking about the interior. I'm talking about this curve. This is called an arc. And you can see in geometry, most of the housing construction follow this arc sign. Be it some religious organization, they also use this arc to represent their symbol or their signs. So this curve from this point to this point is called an arc. Now, when we define an arc, we have what is called a minor arc. The minor arc is the smallest curve you have in the circle. So this is called a minor arc. And also we have the major arc. The major arc is going to be this point part of the circumference from here to this point. You can see this is the minor arc from this part of the circumference, but for the major arc is going to be this part, the entire part of the circumference from this point to this point. So this is called a major arc. Next, we define a segment. Recall the definition of a chord. A chord joins any 2 points of a circle. So a segment is a region between a chord and its corresponding arc. Now look at this. This is a chord. This line is a chord. And this is an arc. This is an arc. And this is a chord. So the region between this chord and the arc, between this arc and the chord, is called a segment. So this entire region here, this entire region is called a what? A segment. You can see the space where the cursor is moving. This is called a segment. Now, for the segment, we have a minor segment. This smallest part here is called a minor segment. This is different from an arc. An arc is just the curve, while the segment is the entire part here. Your major segment is going to be this entire part. Down here is going to be the major segment, while this is going to be the minor segment. Next, we define a sector. A sector is like a pie, or let's say a pizza. When you buy a pizza and some part of the pizza is cut out for you, that is called a sector. Now, a sector can be defined as a region bounded by 2 radii and the arc between them. Now let's have a look at this. This is one radii, okay, the singular of radius. Yeah, we have radius, we have radii. And look at B, this is another radius. This is another radius. So the 2 radii, okay, form what? An arc. And this is a sector. A sector is different from a segment. If you go back to the definition of segment, you will see that it is defined by a chord and an arc. But for a sector, it's defined by what? The radii and an arc. It's going to form a pizza sign, and this is called a minor sector. And if you take a look at this, here we're having 2 radii, like we are having radius A and radius B, but it does not form a diameter. Why? Because it doesn't pass through the center. But here we have, this is the first radius and this is the second radius, forming an arc. So we have the sector. This interior part gives what is called a sector. Next, we have a major sector. A major sector. If this is a minor sector, then this is going to be a major sector. Next, we have a tangent. A tangent is a line that touches the circle at exactly 1 point, just 1 point. And this is an example of a tangent. Look at this line. It touches the circle at this point, only this point. So this is called the tangent. You can see this is called the tangent. Next, we have the secant. A secant is a line that intersects the circle at 2 points. A line that divides the circle at 2 points. You can see it's just like a chord, okay, but it crosses through the circle. Your line A and B are called what? Are called the secant. This is in the interior part, but for the case of tangent is exterior, but this crosses the interior part of a circle. And this is where I'm going to stop. If you need more, kindly ask in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye. Subscribe to this channel.